Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
And hello, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com. And tonight we've got stuff to talk about. And here we're going to have Mr. Hop from Kitchener Con. How you doing today?
Not too bad, good sir. How about yourself? That intro is fantastic, by the way. Slightly jelly.
I like that.
Pretty good.
I've got in
Pretty
purple
good.
and in yellow, but I've never not added the voices to it yet. So I should get me some alternation going on now that I can get in here.
Yeah.
And we also have.
How you doing, guys?
Not too bad. About yourself?
Am I loud?
You are very, very loud, good sir.
You are loud and yet muted.
I'm loud and muted.
Sort of like a robot underwater.
And I think you can hear your. I think you can hear your neighbors thinking in the next room. I'm not quite too sure.
Yeah. Or they're
Bring that down.
the two.
I had a hard drive crash, and so everything's and it was a RAID, and so one drive went down, and of course the backup didn't work. So we lost a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
that?
sort of like a. That's weird. It says you're muted here too, but you're not. You know how you used to play a comb? You get a hair comb and a piece of tissue paper, and you do the kazoo through it. It sounds like you're talking through one of those.
I wonder if. Give me one hot second. Let me go to my sound settings. Let's see if the microphone is on for the Logitech camera.
That might do it if you're using like two microphones at the same time.
Yeah, and I don't want it to do that, obviously. Would be bad, yes.
I have no idea.
Everything looks.
With my screen here.
Okay.
It sounds a little better.
Is that okay? Oh. Okay, how's that, guys?
That's a little bit better. I think that's audible. Almost said legible. Yes, we can read. You have word balloons coming out. We can read your thoughts.
Oh, there's a scary thought. That could be bad for all of us.
For sure. So here we are.
It's been a week. Yes. Good God, what's been going on in comics lately? So.
Well, there really isn't too much. It's kind of like a dry subject these days. You know, everyone's getting along. Publishers are printing their books on time, getting to the comic book stores. Fans are happy across both Canada and the U.S. that they can read their favorite comic book characters. You know, it's a really boring time. You know, people are making money. Everyone's happy. It's so good.
Who's doing really well in comics right now?
What's that? What's that, RJ?
I think he asked if you could smell that.
Oh,
yeah, can you smell it?
It's kind of hard through the power of the internet, but I will try.
Smell-o-vision. You know who's doing really well in comics these days?
Disney?
Asian people.
Interesting.
Asian people are doing really well.
Asian people. All right. What do you mean by that, RJ? And what does Asian people consist of these days? I'm a little confused. I'm Canadian, so I'm a little bit behind.
I'm so glad you asked.
Excellent.
See, on the other side of the world.
Oh, wait a minute. There's an other side of the world. Oh my God! What is this?
On the flip side of the world.
What's on my face?
There's this place called Asia.
Okay.
You've been Asianated.
Awesome.
and
Fantastic.
people, there are people there, and they like to make comic books, and sometimes
That's
they make them in America.
fantastic. I had
I
no
love it.
idea that the opposite side of the planet was populated at all. This is all wonderful
Comics
news.
are like a universal language now.
Oh goodness gracious, that's fantastic.
And with all the infighting going on, and the outfighting, and the backbiting, and the backstabbing, and whatever other contortions you can get into to have a fight,
Yeah,
a pattern has begun emerging here.
and what's the pattern that you're finding there, RJ?
Well, it could be two different things, but let's look at the pattern first. I'm
All
going
right.
to go all the way back to 2018.
Awesome. Does this map still have to
2017.
be on my face, or think the audience has a good idea what's going on?
Well, the audience has a great idea what's
There
going
we
on.
go.
You know what?
Thank you, RJ.
I can't read the
appreciate the small
tweets
things.
then. I can't read the tweets then. I should have put the tweets in here separately. That's what I should have done. I didn't do that. I should have.
Okay, can you square shoot it when everything's like little small this way and you got the whole screen this way type of thing?
No, because it's not a shared screen. It's an overlay. See, it's
Oh.
there. It is on top of us all again.
Okay, that's
Oh.
cool. I'll just move this way a little bit.
Remember when
There we
Mark
go.
Wade-
There we go. I'll just I live here now.
You live somewhere in the Sea of Japan.
Excellent. They got good seafood. If you don't mind
People
the
in Tokyo are
plutonium.
screaming, it's Hopzilla! It's Hopzilla rising from the waters!
No. Sorry, I'm being very, very distracted. Please continue.
Oh,
RJ.
don't worry, nothing could possibly stop what happened to our Monday nights. Nothing could possibly top the Monday night invasion that we had. So, but remember when Mark Wade went to Antarctic and said, "Hey, you guys probably don't know this, so let me educate you."
No.
His exact words were, as highlighted, they don't really understand, being the core language there. And
Okay.
Antarctic is owned by Ben Dunn, who is
Oh,
a man
okay.
of Asian descent.
Gotcha.
And then this past week, we had, shortly after that, a lot of people got angry at Alterna Comics.
Okay.
Because they thought somebody didn't have a good business decision. It was really poor marketing, which is another way of saying you're too dumb to run a business. Because of, the guy had a social media policy, and that guy was, what's his name? Oh, Peter Cimetti. Nice Italian name. Guess what? He's Asian descent.
Oh.
And then this past week, Tom King steps into the, kind of gets into it. Now he has since apologized for this, so we will preface that. But he had a problem with an alternate cover to Rorschach #1 by Jay Lee.
Okay.
That's interesting because think about this. Jay Lee's already been paid for the alternate cover. He's not getting royalties on it.
Yeah.
Tom King basically said, "Don't buy half my product."
Oh, that's awesome.
What
did you say about people with bad? I was going to say, what did you say about people with bad business sense?
Well, you know what? It's not his business.
That could be used in many different ways.
Yes, it could. And so basically, he was telling, on day one of San Diego Comic-Con, here's my new project. Don't buy half the covers, which I'm sure DC had to love while they were there. DC being, published right now by, who's that pasty white guy who's in charge? No, wait. Is DC being published by an Asian man?
No.
I'm Canadian, so I'm very colorblind. So you're gonna have to tell me.
Okay.
Race
Okay.
gets all thrown together, the multicultural aspect of things.
As it should be.
All right.
Yeah, Jim Lee's the publisher at DC. I wonder what he had to
That's
say about
right. Jim
his
and
buddy
Lee-
from Image.
Yeah, they kind of go back a few years, don't they? Like to the 90s or something like that.
I thought so. No,
Yeah.
Maybe Tom wasn't just thinking.
Isn't
but
Jim Lee
gosh.
like the like the editor-in-chief or publisher of DC Comics.
I think he's like the head honcho there. Yeah.
Yeah, that ooh.
He's pretty brilliant.
Those telephone conversations must be in depth and interesting, probably full of historical facts about the publishing industry and the way it is today, and the individuals who were keenly responsible for a lot of positive movement out of the big two back in the 90s. And it's almost like a brotherhood, if you would. So one just has to wonder how that conversation went over.
One hopes that when Jay Lee saw the tweet, the first thing he did was call his buddy Jim and say, "Hey,
hey Jim, hey Lee, how are you? Not too bad. How the kids? Fantastic. By the way, there's this fucking guy that's on my ass, and I couldn't bury my dog properly because of being an asshole online." Maybe a conversation like that took place, but
I would really hope so. I would love for that to have happened. We'll never know. But
just imagine if that was McFarland giving Lee a call. Oh my God, the blood spray. We could feel it all the way up here in the north, eh? My God.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Oh, wow. Just 6 shades of silliness. All right, move by the way. There we go.
We're going to say that Tom King apologized and that
there we go.
All is right. All is right in Tom King's world. Jay Lee
I still
said,
stand by my opening deposition in the comic book industry.
Yes.
Usually people have to do stuff at gunpoint, but since it's more of an American thing, that's kind of understanding, if you will. Everything's going to be fine, right? Everything's great.
Everything's cool.
Good.
But there have been a lot of people who are still on the whole Jay Lee bandwagon. And
okay.
3 of them I've got highlighted on the little map here that I can't yet see on my screen. I know it's on the little screen. There we go. There's half of it. We got Lee. I'm going to start in the lower left corner here with Ramon Villalobos. He says, "Can't believe the Jay Lee discourse is still going. Here's the thing. This last Instagram post is dumb, and he shows more anger to people being upset by his association with Comicsgate than Comicsgate themselves. We were mostly willing to accept he's dumb, but I had no idea he was this dumb."
Ooh.
That's
educational.
That's educational. I wonder if Ramon Villalobos knew that Jay Lee was dumb at the same time that he knew that Eric Esquivel was rapey.
Oh, Jesus.
Because
so
they kind of worked together on that project, didn't they?
I would assume so, if memory serves me correctly.
Bordertown thing.
Yeah, that was an odd production.
Yeah, we got Jason from Sci-Fi for Me here. Jason, I'm kind of getting snarky and snipey, but nowhere near as wild as Monday night, so you get a chance to talk.
Yeah, that was an interesting conversation. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm using a different microphone here, so
it sounds like you got the potato mic syndrome.
I'm slapping Asia on everybody's faces here every now and then to read some stuff. So I try to take it off. If the weight's too much, let me know. We just went over Ramon Villalobos' tweet about how he knew that Jay Lee was dumb.
Yeah, that's always great.
It surprises me. Well, it really doesn't surprise me anymore.
It does.
It's on the one hand, no, it doesn't surprise me. On the other hand, it does surprise me from the standpoint that it continues, that it has continued for as long as it has. Because as many people have pointed out, and rightly so, DC and Marvel and in Image, IDW, any of those, they should have HR departments and management that sit there and have a conversation and say, okay, this kind of behavior needs to stop, whatever it is. And the fact that it is not, the fact that we don't get statements from DC or Marvel, or in the case of Dynamite, for example, we get this mamby-pamby, bend the knee statement that's really kind of a nothing burger to CYA, and that's the only thing that we get. We don't get any kind of a statement from CB Cebulski, from Jim Lee. I've sent
DC and Marvel both run by Asian men. Jim Lee is running DC, and Akira Toshida is running.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing on that too is, I've sent emails, especially on the DC thing. I've sent emails to their publicity department and said, "Hey, is anybody going to make a comment on this? Is there any statement?" And not even a response back saying we don't have a comment. They're completely ignoring. And I don't know if it's because I'm. Do what?
That's because Clark Bull has been busy on Twitter reporting tweets. And Michael Schelling is completely unaware of it. So make sure your email goes to Michael Schelling, not to Clark Bull.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure who I'm sending, because I've sent to a few different people there, but I will double check to see
Michael
where
Schelling
it's going.
is the director of publicity, while
Okay.
Clark Bull is like the publicist for the company. Michael's his boss.
Makes sense.
Well, it would be a far wiser thing if DC and Marvel both had a social media policy and stuck to it. I mean, they both do. They actually have that policy. They just don't use it. They don't enforce it.
Yeah.
Well, I also heard something else to the grapevine. I'll just be true or not true. I heard that a lot of these publishing companies cannot tell their contractors what they can and cannot say to their own social media accounts because they're independent contractors versus employees. So,
I've heard that as well.
They can't do that, but being an independent contractor, I can tell you what they can do: let you go for no reason.
yeah.
Yeah.
But really, is that going to happen? I mean, right now the industry is hurting for writers and artists, and they're all scrambling. Everybody wants a paycheck. I mean, here's all my redneck coming out. But what burns my biscuit about this whole thing with Tom is the fact that all Tom had to do was call the guy, find someone to get a hold of him. It's not that hard, and ask the guy a question. But he never did. And he's military. No, that's one of the first things they tell you in military. You got a beef with a guy?
Yeah.
And you didn't.
Really though, I mean, what business is it of Tom King's anyway? And that's the argument and the back and forth and the debate and all of this discussion that goes about this situation is really based on a false premise that Tom King has any business interfering in the process at all anyway. If it's a variant cover off of his book, if he's got something in his contract that says I get approval on artwork, variant artwork, cover artwork, interior art, all that, all well and good, then he's got a legitimate gripe. But if he doesn't have anything in his contract that says Tom King can approve art, then it's none of his business if DC hires Jay Lee or Ethan Van Sciver or John Malin or Doug TenNapel or
Todd McFarlane,
any of those guys.
Yeah.
It's almost like we should put something that seems like such an important concept that we should possibly put something like that in our Constitution, just for all Americans to have the right to associate with whomever they wish.
You
would think something like that would be there.
You might have something there, RJ. It may be worth looking into, I would say. Yeah.
I'm going to throw Asia back up here again because I got one other quote here on the Jay Lee thing that I want to see. And because, well, okay, system of mind, don't work with me. It's got the finger, but the finger is like anywhere I point on the screen, it's like it should be finger on the overlay, arrow, and everything else. And I'm not going to reboot everything right now. I don't feel like it. But
probably for the best.
Probably. It's giving me the finger. I'm giving it the finger. It's telling
Excellent.
me to wait or exit pages. You know what? I'm going to exit the page and we'll just talk.
There you go.
Um,
Oh, there
of
it is.
course it loads it now that the page closed down. Of course it did. When I have absolutely no friggin' control over it.
That
Welcome to
is the way it
Boomerville.
works, right?
That's just the way it goes. Mr. Hop is back in Japan. Okay, so the top left square that I cannot read on my phone because it's microscopic. Can somebody read who that is and what he said?
Are you talking about Liam McGuire?
Liam McGuire, yes, please.
Liam McGuire says, and he did multiple covers. He knows what he was doing, unless he's just incredibly stupid. I'm assuming we're talking about Jay Lee in this tweet.
Yeah.
Still talking about Jay Lee. This is the post immediately after Heather Antos's comment about still no taking of responsibility from Jay.
Well, and the other thing too, I mean, you sit there and say multiple covers. He did one variant cover for Cyberfrog 2. His other cover as part of the multiple set was a variant on Cyberfrog number 4 from Harris in June of 1996. So
Wow.
It's not like he's doing a bunch of them. He did a cover way back in the day before Comicsgate was ever a thing. He and Ethan have known each other for all this time.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. Hey, you want to do another cover for nostalgia's sake more than anything else? How about coming back and doing another one for the new book?
Now, Jason, you bring up a great point there, and that is the fact that the first one is very old, and the new one ain't all that new anymore. I mean, that was done, that was paid for. The book has, come close to being done. It's supposed to be out before December.
Yeah.
But you know who makes a lot of sales currently, like last week and possibly next week on Jay Lee's artwork? Dynamite Comics.
Really?
Interesting.
He's doing the Vampirella covers for and the Sacred Six covers. Sacred Six number 1 came out 2 weeks ago or a week ago, and with Tom King making that statement, putting the heat on Jay Lee about Comicsgate associations, followed 2 days later by Nick Barucci coming out and saying, okay, what if Nick Barucci doesn't care so much about people saying that they're leaving books that they're already off the contracts on, and is worried more about Jay Lee saying, I can't take this.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. I didn't know that he was doing the Vampirella covers. That puts a completely different spin on this thing as far as being a psyops from Tom King's point of view.
Exactly.
Because if you look at the Whisper Network article that came out on Bleeding Fool a few weeks ago, and the fact that they are specifically mentioning Dynamite and Nick Barucci's super chat and all that other stuff.
Yep.
You combine that with the Jay Lee thing, and everybody. This actually could be a coordinated attack on Dynamite, and Jay Lee is just one piece of it.
Yeah.
Because if you go back and look at Saul Alinsky's rule for radicals, number 13 is isolate your target. And it could very well be that you're doing harm, not necessarily to do harm to Nick Barucci or do harm to Dynamite, but eliminate them as a competition. Because what does Dynamite do more than anything else? They do licensed work.
Properties. Yeah.
Who else does licensed work? IDW. Who's in the major throes of financial woes and internal whatever is going on over there is IDW.
Oh yeah.
Could
they're
be
really financially in a lot of trouble right now?
Yeah, I mean, you look at their reports from 2019. They're what, $26 million in the red.
And on top of that, add a very small pandemic on top of that.
Yeah.
Nothing
So-
but red moving forward.
What would be the possibility? And I don't know why DC would have a vested interest in IDW winning out anything over Dynamite. But what would be the possibility that we've got a coordinated attack on Dynamite on behalf of IDW for whatever reason.
Remember whose licensed property's out to IDW right now?
It's all Marvel stuff, isn't it?
Marvel.
Yeah.
Have any of you guys heard of Firebell?
No,
No.
I have not.
Firebell is a, I want to word this correctly. It's brand protection guerrilla warfare. And it's developed by a PR company called Weber Shandwick, which is a huge multi-million-dollar firm that specializes in public relations. And Firebell, basically, the way they drill through it is if there's a crisis on the internet, they go through and they show you how to do the Saul Alinsky thing to those who are attacking the brand and protect the brand.
And they run a simulated simulations?
They run simulations.
Yeah.
Do you know who the chief creative officer is for Weber Shandwick?
I do not know. Tell us, please.
Kwanzaa Osajepu.
Really?
Kwanzaa.
Yes.
I've heard of this name in Canada.
How in the world did Kwanzaa get that job? Wow.
He's had that job for a couple of years now, at least according to his LinkedIn.
Really?
Wow.
So when you take that into us, I feel like there should be like a map with strings going.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
behind me.
Right?
You see this over here? The penguin. It's where it all starts and ends.
Well, and not only that, because what you could do if you were to do stuff like that, given the connections that the comics industry now has to the gaming industry through people like Zoe Quinn, Brianna Wu, you've got that connection there, not only there, but in the adaptations and the back and forth. But that map, that whole conspiracy map, could go Comicsgate and Gamergate and probably go over into HugoGate if we take it back far enough. But that's interesting that Kwanzaa is part of that.
Yeah.
Which
And,
means that Mark Waid likely has a connection to that in some way, shape, or
considering
form,
that-
because they've been working together on Ignited.
Well, here's the timeline on this. Mark Waid gets sued by Richard C. Meyer for tortious interference.
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving of 2018, Thanksgiving Day, Richard C. Meyer's YouTube channel gets 2 copyright strikes with the third in play. And YouTube's is a 3 strikes, you're out, no questions asked, no return.
Yeah.
Right.
These 2 strikes were filed by Kwanzaa Osajepu and Mags Visaggio. The month after that, Kwanzaa Osajepu and Mags Visaggio are hired onto Humanity First by Mark Waid.
Interesting. I knew about the copyright strike from Max. I didn't know about the one from Kwanzaa.
Yeah, there were 2 happening at the same time.
Yeah,
And
I
that's why
believe they
Richard
wanted
was
to
like,
I believe they were taking advantage of the long weekend as well, because they figured that no one would be in the office. Plus, on top of it, they figured that since Richard C. Minor has such a large, diverse family, he would not be paying attention towards his YouTube channel or something
exactly.
along those lines.
That's the theory. So, a lot of theory going on here, but it just fits together so well that it's hard not to give it some thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, if Marvel had a contract with somebody who was waging PR war online, then you would expect that whoever was in charge at Marvel at the time, which would be like Joe Quesada. Well, let's see, who did Joe Quesada buddy up to on the internet during that time period? Lower
The
right-hand
map's
corner,
back.
please.
Oh, there we go.
Yes,
On the lower.
lower right-hand corner there. Yeah, you know, what's happening? My studio map is refreshing so very slowly here. It's like, there we go.
Renfamous?
Renfamous. Joe Quesada was chatting back and forth with her on Twitter for quite some time, basically buddied up. They're friends with each other online. And here she is talking about a Comicsgate colorist named Farah from Indonesia, I believe. I'm going to say, I know it's Indonesia. And she's like, a significant number of Comicsgate campaigns, one colorist who I don't think is aware that she's working for a hate group. Now, this despite the fact that Farah has on her Instagram account #Comicsgate for all the work she does.
Is she the one that's doing the colors for Miss Fury with Tucci?
I don't think she is, but I know she's doing the colors for Peregrine Wings of the Falcon.
Okay. Because I think there's I think there's a woman colorist on Tucci's book too.
Yeah, I don't think it's her though. I can't remember who it is. I know it's Maria.
Maria's doing the art, doing the inks, I think. I'm gonna look it up. That's interesting timing on all that. I see. I would think, and it might be worth a little bit of a collaborative effort with a number of these sites, like Critical Blast and ours, and Bleeding Fool, and see if we pull all of the information all together in one place and see what kind of picture it paints, because it feels like there's something bigger here, and there are people that have pieces of that puzzle. And if you just get them all in the same room and you start putting this puzzle together, it would probably be something a little bit more substantial than what any one person has.
Oh yeah, we could probably throw that ball back and forth all evening long, because if you look at it, it's a huge attack on the entertainment industry, especially for fandom. Plus, on top of that, it's an attack on North American heroism as well. There's a whole bunch of things that can be extrapolated from all of this, and it's just really unfortunate it's taking place, because the bottom line of bottom lines here is that if the publishing industry doesn't get their collective stuff together really quick, the whole industry is going to change. And what's going to come down to it is that kids are going to pick up their favorite comic books at Walmart. That's exactly what's going to happen here. And the thing is, the big two companies owned by both Disney and AT&T are looking for a maximum return on their investment. And the thing is that if this is what these people want online to fight over, that's exactly what they're going to get. And it's going to be very, very unfortunate, because the things that we take for granted right now, which is basically more entrepreneurism, basically the ability to pick up your comics and support independent businesses, as well as independent artists, as well as picking up your own favorite books along the way, all that stuff's going to go away. And if this is what people, a small group of people want online, they're going to get that sooner or later. And the thing is that that's going to make the industry that much more tougher to get involved with, because again, when you're looking at your maximum return for investments, especially when you start dealing with the big box stores such as Target and Walmart and stuff like that, and you now include basically take out the smaller retailers and stuff like that, that's it. The industry will be locked in and be locked down, and there'll be no more getting into it.
Well, and not only that too, but you also consider that the report that we just got from Doomcock, looking at the rumor, I guess for lack of a better word, coming from WDW Pro over there on the Disney World forums, talking about how much financial strait Disney is in right now.
Yeah.
and if that's true, and especially if you look at the impact, apparently some executive order that Trump signed with regard to Asian business and the connections to Hong Kong, if Disney is looking at the possibility of having to divest themselves of the Asian properties that they have, then that's going to hurt them. Plus the fact that, they're not going to have that income coming in anymore. And aside from the fact they don't have it now because of all of the parks that are closed.
Well, there's a lot of that going on. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Yeah. Plus, on top of that, some of our viewers may or may not know that Disney borrowed over $9 billion just to keep the lights on. And Disney basically boils down to a lot of things, but the basic ones I'm going to bring up is their cruise ships, their theme parks, and their entertainment sectors. Right now, The entertainment sector, not doing so good. Movie theaters are shut down. There's a huge, giant paradigm shift for the movie studios to try to make back their basic initial investment by hopefully hitting the worldwide box office. Plus, on top of that, the theme parks, well, basically the big brains at Disney sat down and said, okay, look, if we have half of our people come in, we should be okay. And what's coming in, they're only getting 1/3 of that if they're lucky. And on top of that, due to what's happening in the States, which you gentlemen pretty much know about, the pandemic is running rampant all over the place because unfortunately people didn't follow social distancing and other nuances like that. So basically you have a huge giant sick count as well as a death count taking place, and it all evolves around when people get together. So now the theme parks can be shut down, and now we start looking at the actual cruise ships. That's completely docked moving forward. So right now Disney only has assets they could sit on. I could bet you dollars to donuts they're going to be fire sailing a lot of stuff they bought from Fox, because remember, that was a $72 billion investment they invested in. When they invested that money, they were expecting their annual revenue, which is $19 billion from everything coming in, using raw numbers, of course, to basically support what's moving forward. And when you have all of the nostalgia from the 80s and the 90s, it's a good investment. Who knew a pandemic would come in and kind of wipe everything out?
Well, not only that, but you look at all of the things that they do own. What goes first? What gets sold first? Do they sell their stake in Hulu? Do they sell their stake in A&E? Do they sell their stake in ESPN? Or do they take a loss on Lucasfilm because Lucasfilm is still in the red? They have not made their money back on that purchase of Lucasfilm. Do they get rid of that one first?
Allow me to offer you a fifth initiative. I think what they get rid of is all of the rated PG/rated R intellectual property, such as Aliens and Avatar and stuff like that from Fox, to bring in some money to start off with. And then basically if the bleeding starts continuing on, then they start selling the hard assets all over that. There's a friend of mine that told me a long time ago, and this is something I'll hold true, is that you don't sell your assets to balance the books. And that's exactly what Disney's going to have a huge problem with moving forward, because again, their predictive spreadsheet was basically all about good times. It'll keep going on forever and ever. We could build castles into empires, no problem. And then all of a sudden this pandemic hit. No one took it seriously. And oops.
Well, the pandemic hit. 2 weeks of pandemic and comic shops were shutting down permanently.
Exactly. And the thing is that when you're looking at an industry, this is the other thing that drives me nuts, because this is basically when my small entrepreneurness comes out, is that you're looking at an industry for the most part, not for everything, for the most part, it's actually surviving from paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. So when you have a 2-week gap, you're done. And the thing is that everyone's basically squeezing out every single dime they could possibly get out of an industry that's unfortunately inherently flawed. Because I'm pretty sure that people in this panel remember back in the day at a comic book shop, if the comic book doesn't sell, you rip off the cover, you hand it back to the distributor guys, and basically get a credit, no problem. Isn't it weird they got rid of that? And on top of that, they cut back all of the other aspects to make sure the independent comic book shops could make a return. So that gave licensings for the big two to publish whatever the fuck they wanted. It's complete garbage. Like, how many times have we heard about, Marvel is basically flying the shelves once again with a whole bunch of nonsense crap? And on top of that, I got involved in comic books because of the mythos of the comic book characters, especially the originals from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And the thing is that those were great times for literature, new ideas, new concepts. And now the thing is that Marvel and DC haven't done that at all. Like, it's a surprise when they actually do come up with a really cool fucking concept that actually kids can get into and go, holy snackies, this is awesome. I want to get involved with that. Like, how can you do that with characters such as Snowflake and Safe Space? Like, I'm a former comic book publisher. Okay, I have both the practical experience and the educational experience to back that up. If that came across my desk at the highlight of my day, I'm going, what the fuck is this? Well, this is what kids are into. No. Go back.
Have
Come
you
back
seen
with something that works? Thank you.
Have you seen the Alex Ross mural that's going into the Marvel offices?
No, I haven't. What's going on with that?
It's gorgeous.
I'm
Let me see
a
if I can
big
get
fan
it.
of Alex Ross.
Beautiful. Yeah, he's been splashing that thing everywhere. It's beautiful.
That's cool. I've
Right,
met Alex Ross. He's a really, really genuine, good individual when I met him. Very giving.
Okay. RJ, I'm going to share my screen here. You guys can see the picture there, and you can share that. This is the mural that is currently now installed in the Marvel offices in California. Of course, nobody's there to appreciate it, but it just got put in. But we were seeing on his Instagram account the various different bits and pieces of this, because he was doing each character singly on a white background so they could be repurposed for other things.
Yeah.
But this mural is just, I don't know, RJ, are you seeing, are you able to see
No,
my,
we're not seeing anything on this.
Not
end
seeing
there.
it?
I'm
'Cause
not
I've
seeing
got
it
it.
here yet. There, it just came up for me.
oh, wait, let me redo it here.
The fun of
That's
doing it live.
I know, right? Right?
We'll do it live.
But if you look at this, and this doesn't have everything
go.
over
Just give me a second.
on the
Wow.
left, you can barely see Johnny Blaze, Ghost Rider, right there in front of Namor. On the right, behind next to Medusa, is the Punisher. But you look at all of the artwork here; these are all the classic costumes. These are all the classic looks of these characters. And Alex Ross is this is the Marvel that I grew up with. This is the Marvel I know. And the reaction to this artwork has been, this is the Marvel that we should have. This is the Marvel that we that kids should be able to see, because you go watch an Iron Man movie, you see Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. You go to the comic book shop and say,
man.
okay, I want a Tony Stark Iron Man book, and it's
What's
Riri
going
Williams.
on? Who's Riri Williams? Well, you see, little boy, Tony
exactly.
died. What? Yeah, he's in a coma. What? And now he comes back as a blue AI.
Yeah.
I'm out. As a kid walks out the door.
Alex Ross has been working on this since the beginning of the year.
Wow.
That's gorgeous. Who's that green lady on the far left? I don't recognize her.
Green on the far left, that's She-Hulk.
No,
The real
She-Hulk is like a huge, big, bulky.
The real one.
RJ, stop. Stop. Yeah, you know what? There's only one thing I could possibly say I disagree with. I think Alex Ross is incorrect. I don't think these are the heroes that we should have. I think we should have better heroes because they're better, and it pushes the art form and the character of the mythos further. I think these are characters that we should remember and keep them in that, happy spot of comic book history, because if you don't move forward with new concepts, and we're talking about solid concepts here, not safe space and snowflake type of thing, like that's what elevates the art form. That's what gives a generation a new voice moving forward with things. And I think that's very important to basically adapt and hold on to, because again, with all the stupid fighting that's going on online, it's taking away from the most precious commodity that we have. They can only spend once and never get back, which is time. And there's so much strife in the world these days. I think it should be up to comic book publishers, artists, writers, and illustrators to recognize this, and they give a new generation inspiration to move forward, because it's that inspiration that will change the world and actually bring some light to really dark times.
Well, and I agree. And I may have misspoke earlier. It wasn't Alex Ross that said that this is the Marvel we should have. It's the reaction to the artwork. People are looking at it and they're saying, this is what we should be getting. And I agree with you. There should be new concepts, new characters, well developed, well planned, created characters. And if you're going for diversity, that's fine. Do it there.
Comic
You know,
books
and we've
always
got-
had diversity.
I
Always
know,
had
I
that.
know. But
And
then
I'm
it's
so
not the right
mm.
kind. It's not the right
Oh,
kind
I'm
of
sorry.
diversity.
Storm isn't the right kind of diversity, followed by Wonder Woman.
I
or,
know, right?
You know, War Machine. And
Yeah, it's-
I could go on for hours, my friends. Like,
Yeah,
goodness
no, it makes
gracious,
makes
the
absolutely
handbasket.
no sense. Well, it's just like
You
this
got
concept.
the Beast, who's blue, for God's sakes.
It's like it's like this complaint that women in comics. Women have always been in comics.
Yes.
Louise Simonson, one of the most noted and
Yes.
respected writers in comics.
Yes.
You had Jeanette Kahn, who was the publisher of DC Comics, and
Exactly.
Nocenti. You've got
And
you've had
the thing
women
about
in
her,
there.
Bobby
and one thing
Chase.
we'll jump into
Yeah.
really quickly about her. Before she put the comic book code of authority and everything, she expected every DC comic that came out personally to get her own personal Hancock on that. Like, goodness gracious.
Yeah. Yeah. But and you see this with Star Trek also, because when Sonequa Martin Green was cast as the lead on Discovery, it was just like, oh, we're breaking new ground. Well, no, you're not, because there's been a woman lead on Voyager and there was a black lead on DS9. You're not doing anything new. But these people are making every kind of pronouncement as if history only started 5 years ago when they got into the business,
Yeah.
and it's crazy.
You know
They are
what-
ignoring so much history and all of these different franchises and industries. You have to wonder where they've been for the last 10, 15, 20, 30
You know what?
years.
I don't recall a huge hue and cry from the fandom when they met Janeway as captain of a vessel. I don't remember them seeing this huge "what the hell is going on" when Cisco was the commander of Deep Space Nine.
Oh,
It was
the
just like,
funny thing is
oh,
that
cool character.
if memory serves me correctly, when Voyager was first coming up, people did say, "Oh, there's a female captain. Oh, that's not going to be cool." But that's what they said originally. But as the series continued on, it basically developed. It grew its legs. It got its own footing, and people tuned in because they enjoyed it and they did a really good job with it. Like,
Exactly.
you know, a lot of this, I'm not quite sure if you guys know a lot about the home entertainment industry. We're talking like home releases and stuff like that. One of the few things that sales representatives try to do is put their own stamp on things. What I mean by that, it's like going from laser discs to beta tapes to VCR tapes, from VCR tapes to DVDs, and DVDs to Blu-rays, and from there the next format after that. Because basically what salespeople love to do is basically say, "Oh, we came with something that's new, something that's completely rejuvenated the actual industry, and this is our personal stamp on things." And every time I hear about these new artists coming in and new salespeople and stuff like that, they seem to do the exact same thing over and over again. They're trying to reinvent the wheel, but the wheel's already round and it's there and it's rubbery. And fans really know about it. It's just,
But it's the wrong brand and it's the wrong color and it has the wrong number of grooves in it. And so we have to do it all over again and make it our own.
exactly. But it's got to be round though, because the square ones don't turn so good.
You know,
What have
we
you
had
got
an
against
LCS
square
guy show.
tires? That's
I have
Yeah.
nothing.
yeah.
I personally prefer octagon tires. But that's just me. Sorry, Joe.
we have the LCS guy show every other Saturday. We got it coming up this Saturday at 7 p.m. Central. And Michael Tierney runs a comic shop in Little Rock. And he said that they always told the comic industry, if you wanted to sell comics, you need to do what every other industry does, and that's advertise on television. And they were always like, "Well, no, you can advertise locally. You're the guy selling the comics. We just sell to you." And he said when comics went digital, that's the first and only time they ever advertised on TV was that, hey, you can get digital comics now. And the response to people watching that was like, I can get comics now? They still make those? And they sought out comic shops. And he said he saw a rise in physical paper copies coming in because people said they saw advertising on TV for digital comics, but it made them want to go out and find paper comics.
Well, in
Now,
most
what Marvel
most
has done-
companies. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say what Marvel has done when you talked about Iron Man, Tony Stark in the movies and Riri Williams in the comics. The same was true with Thor. You had Thor on the screen.
Jesus.
You had Jane Foster in the comics. You had Captain America on screen and Captain Nazi in the comics.
Okay, I
What
got
Marvel
to
had
stop.
done-
Okay, I gotta jump in here really quickly. What Marvel comic books did was the biggest misstep I ever seen as an entrepreneur in my life. And I'm talking about, hey, we're talking about a brand new genre in quotations coming up, the superhero genre, not the action genre, not the cowboy genre, but a new genre that's coming up. And Marvel is in the foreground of all of that. Kevin Feige cannot do anything wrong, because on my radio show, not my podcast, but my radio show, I may add, I made light on how a talking raccoon and a walking tree could possibly make any money at all. And I thought this would be the biggest flop that Marvel Studios will ever make in their life. And after when I saw it, the amount of humble crow pie I had to eat was astronomical, because I completely love that movie. Some of it's from Sunday. I don't use the L word too lightly. But the thing is that I was just blown away. Like I personally think that the editor-in-chief at that time should be found with Jimmy Hoffa, to be honest with you. Because if Marvel wanted to make this thing called money, that would be the perfect time to get their shit completely in line, their ducks in a row, tell everyone on Twitter saying, hey, look, you're a hot dog vendor. Guess what you sell? You sell hot dogs. Any disgruntled employees or customers come up to you, say, thank you, sir. We'll take your thoughts in full consideration. We'll pass this on to our HR department, and we'll take it from there. Thank you very much. Please buy our product. Here's a hot dog.
Well, like, the other thing
why?
too is
why?
when the movies were coming out, what they should have done is similar to what other industries do. Like, say if I've got a furniture store and I sell Serta mattresses. Well, if my furniture store advertises on TV that we've got Serta mattresses, then Serta is going to give me what's called co-op money. They're going to give me a little bit of money to help me offset my cost for advertising their product. Same kind of thing here. If you've got a Marvel movie in the theaters, get with the local comic book shops in that area, put together a little kiosk that's got the comic book shop's name on it, load it up, similar to what Allegiance did with that cardboard display they got in the Walmarts. Get you a little foldy box display, throw some of your Marvel titles in there, put it in the lobby at the movie theater, and say, hey, you just saw Thor, here's the comic book.
But here's the
Anyway.
And you ready for this, Jason? Let's just say all the publishers are fucking cheap, seven ways from Sunday, because there was this one CEO of a publishing company that wanted to sell bags of chips and pencils to the actual staff, to the actual media people when they came in with the press. But however, let's just say people are that cheap. How about let's look at a better aspect? How about just making really good stories with really good artwork that appeals to the two major quadrants, which is basically 25 males and younger, and males 25 and older as well. Just focus on that. That's been the main formula in the entertainment industry for the last 100 years. That seems to work. And I'm talking doing that at the very basic things. If you want to push the envelope, then push the envelope, make it fantastic, but stick with the basics of good artwork and good storytelling. None of this.
If you want to bring more people in those demographics into the stores, you gotta market that product somehow. You gotta tell people, say, hey, we got comic books.
Yeah. At a comic book shop.
They spent 10 years and $5 billion. 10 years and $5 billion to create an advertisement to millions of people for a product they didn't sell.
Yeah.
Well, if Marvel would have been thinking from the get-go on the MCU, what they should have done is very similar to what they're doing with the dollar comics. They should have taken books from the 70s, from the 80s, stuck them in the movie theaters. They would have been able to sell those out for $1. Little Bobby and Susie would have been buying those books up like that. I want that book. Oh, there's Captain America, and they would have been selling, and it would have made future buyers.
And on top of that, Lee, here comes the funny part. Here comes the funny part, Lee. Are you ready for this? Are you sitting down? Basically, Marvel did that. They did that at the comic book shops, because what they did is re-release stuff from the 80s and stuff like that, and they sold it for $1. Like the Spider-Man line they came out with, the X-Men line they came out with, it was all like for $1. But you ready for this?
Right.
What kid heard about this? Because, Jason, they didn't advertise it. You had to trip across it by accident, like a clumsy librarian. Like, goodness gracious, dropping books all over the place. Oh, look at that. Oh, this is here. This is awesome. I even picked up some of those old comics. Why? Because they weren't selling for $5.99 Canadian. They were selling for $1 flash.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you know what? I'll buy a couple of these. No problem. Let's get it. And guess what?
To-
The local comic book shop in my town sold out month in and month out.
All right, gentlemen, I got to bail. We got an 8 o'clock stream, so it was good seeing everyone and talking. So, RJ, thanks very much for having me in here.
Thank you for coming in, Jason. Appreciate your
Good
insights
talking
as
with you.
always.
All right,
And
talk to you
everybody
later.
go to Sci-Fi for Me on the YouTube channel. Check him out.
All right, thanks a lot.
And,
So,
to
It's
kind
just the
of
three of us
come
now.
back around. Yes. Now we can talk about Jason.
Who is that
Uh,
guy? Good God.
To bring it back around to the beginning thesis, which was all this odd focus on Asian creators. Whenever somebody has to decry the Comicsgate or the crowdfunding or whatever it have you, it's always attacking Asians. I have two schools of thought on that, and I don't know which one's right. The first one is that these always white, always male, almost always male creators are prejudiced against Asians. And I don't want to believe that because this is 2020 and we just don't have that anymore. The other is that maybe the Asian culture doesn't care so much about who makes comics. And they accept Comicsgate, and the people who don't hate Comicsgate then carry it forward to them for having accepted it.
No, I don't. I don't want to sound like an ass, but I don't see on those two hypotheses. I
Well,
personally.
maybe-
Sorry, go Lee. Sorry, go Lee. Sorry.
No, let's say, well, maybe somebody just wanted to make a damn dollar. You know, somebody said, "Hey, you want me to do a cover? Yeah, okay. What is it? Oh, a frog. Cool. Okay. Here's my fee, and I'll make it for you. I'll have it for you in a week."
Yeah. The other thing that could possibly come up is maybe it's all just purely coincidental. Maybe it's
Could be.
accident. Maybe it's accidentally like that. Because the thing is, that again, to give that much thought credit to a bunch of individuals that seem to get upset of clouds going by, that's a lot of
Well, yeah.
thinking.
It all goes part and parcel too, because this cancel culture thing has everybody on edge.
Yeah.
Because everybody is worried about getting canceled, and guys, I'm 54 years old, and I'm telling you, I do not understand. Yeah, with you, brother. I'm too damn old to care, and I just don't. I'm like you. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I've got a few businesses, and cancel culture really isn't going to affect me, but. But everyday people that just scare the crap out of them. They are afraid, literally.
Breaking it out, Lee.
Oh, better? No?
A little bit. Sorry, just breaking it out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Go
people
out
just
there.
people just get scared. I mean, people are literally scared to say anything anymore, and that's a shame.
Yeah, and also another thing that some people don't realize about social media is that time waits for no person. Because I'm not quite sure if they know this or not. The whole social media landscape is shifting, and it's shifting quickly and dynamically. Because right now, the social media platforms that we followed back 10 years ago, which was like MySpace and MSN groups and stuff like that, that's completely shifted over like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And the funny thing is that dynamic shift is also changing now to like TikTok and other new social platforms. Because why? The younger adults that are going through high school and stuff like that, they have a whole different perspective on things. And I think the biggest problem that's going on right now is a lot of people who are in the sales department do not know how to market to Generation Z or Generation Y or the millennials, and because of it, they're missing out on a huge opportunity. But again, that's all just speculative from my end of things. Because again, I see this stuff all the time. Because I got my own little convention here in wonderful metropolis known as Kitchener, and I have to stay on top of things and what kids like. Because again, my quadrant of the clients that come through my front doors is equally distributed between everybody. We're talking like families, young adults, males, females, the whole nines. But it all starts with the kids. If I don't know what the kids are into, then I've got a convention that will not reciprocate within an age demographic. You got to make sure that stuff's there for them. And I think a lot of these fantastic artists are really missing out on that. Again, that's just my take on things, because a lot of people don't realize that online's forever. And if these kids ever decide to start their own publishing company and they go through their old social media stuff saying, oh, look, this person called this person an asshole. Oh, look, this person sabotaged the other person's career. Oh, look, these people are involved in sort of whispering network. Do we want to hire these people for our publications?
But you
Interesting
know
question.
what? It all depends on what side of the fence you are on at the time they do the digging.
Of course. And it also comes down
you
to
can find certain people online who are, towing the line for corporate comics right now, who 10 years ago were all for turning fire hoses on parades of pride protesters.
Yep. And on top of that, the biggest thing in the entertainment industry, what have you done lately? How much money did it make? What's that? You're involved in a vanity project that did absolutely nothing? Oh, yeah, we want to get on board with that.
Well, I've got 6 grandkids. Okay, and
Congratulations.
They wear me out. four boys, 2 granddaughters, and I'm telling you, I love them to death, kids. Love you, Grandpa says hey. But they wear me out. But I'm gonna tell you something. You know what their favorite movie is right now? Because that changes every week. Except it hasn't so far. Okay. And that is Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah, Miles Morales movie, and everyone,
your grandchildren have taste, by the way. I did that.
Because it is a classic take on a classic hero's journey.
Yes,
and that's what you can't lie to kids. You can, but I mean, they have radar for this crap. If it's good, they'll like it. I mean, why did Thomas the Train last so long? Yeah, adults went nuts over it because they're like, my kids are watching this now. They hated it. But why did the kids love it? Because it had a true story. It was a classic story. It taught value. It taught how to get along with people. It was a hero's journey as well. You had Thomas who was evolving as he went along and became a better train.
Yep.
That's what kids want. That's what everybody wants. That's why the MCU is doing well, because they're heroes' journeys.
Yeah, and on top of that, it had a very good moral message behind it. There wasn't ideal politics behind it. There wasn't, do we have enough of this, enough of that? They basically made a story for kids, and it worked. And the thing is that
they didn't preach.
Yeah, and on top of that, it just came down to entertainment for kids that the parents could watch, painfully sometimes.
Yes.
Yes. Corny.
Yeah, but again, what really comes down to it, it's very unfortunate that there's a group of people out there that are really thinking on the right side of things. And if you start looking at what they're really doing, it would be interesting. It'd be very interesting if they just turn the other cheek and just let a lot of things slide and see what happens if we're getting upset and try to cancel people. Because one of the few things that I've been through on a very personal level in the last few years is that unfortunately I had some very good friends of mine who committed suicide due to cancel culture, due to own pressures and stuff like that. And people really don't realize that some of the stuff online resonates with people for a very long period of time. So the thing is, they're not hurting people. They're actually getting inside their head. And when those dark times come, like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, when they feel they have nothing to lose, they have nothing more to give.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate
part. We've seen that happen in a headline fashion. I don't know who your friends were or what they did.
And I'm not going to get into something bawling like a baby.
Yeah, but we saw that happen with that game designer that was targeted by Zoe Quinn. Alex Hawalka. Or Holoka. Yeah. I don't have his name in front of me. It's not one I see every day, so I'm pronouncing it wrong both times, I'm sure. But the cancel culture came for him, and he wasn't able to handle it. So he ended his life.
it's just really heavy, and I really think a lot of people that are involved with that should really seriously think what they post online and what they're really getting involved with, because the events that I'm a part of, the art initiatives I'm a part of, it's all about creating a platform for artists in my general community, plus on top, like giving back towards fundraising or giving donations to local food banks. And the thing is that I'm just some schmuck that lives in a small town in the middle of southern Ontario. And the thing is that these are my initiatives moving forward. It's not like I wake up and say, hey, how can I destroy somebody? Like,
Yeah. Well, see, that's like,
Sad.
okay, I'm a president of a nonprofit, okay, and we do a lot of charity work here in our small town.
awesome.
You know, I cannot tell you how surprised and I shouldn't be, but it still surprises me how different. I mean, I'm in Iowa, okay. Somebody thinks, oh, there's just a bunch of dumb rednecks out there, but y'all, we got the corn. We got the corn. If you need food, we got the corn. But so anyway, we do this nonprofit. We have this nonprofit, and we try to help and give back to our community. And it blows my mind when I see people, screaming how you shouldn't, you need to take care of yourself and you need to do this, and every man for himself. But yet, here we are. We had most of our state shut down, and as soon as everything started opening back up, everybody flooded into the different businesses to get them business, so that they could have money to feed their families. And I don't know. I really do not like cancel culture. It really is something that
And
I think that we should.
yeah, you're breaking up, Lee.
I keep saying that what it's going to take somebody to try to cancel somebody big in the industry. Somebody big with DC or Marvel, somebody that's a known name, and have them just attack and attack and attack, and for the guy to just look at them, stand up, and just
Jane, you ignorant
knock
slut.
out.
Yeah.
I missed that show. That was my favorite line.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I personally think, RJ, I don't think that's going to work. Nope.
You
I
don't
think
think if
the-
somebody stood up that it would tumble the house of cards that they've got built up
Nope.
here? Because right now
No.
they keep winning.
Well, this is what I see. I personally see people not understanding that local businesses just don't make their community, they make their community better. And they don't understand when the local independent comic book shop, which is a retailer, stops selling stuff at their shop because the kids are not coming in anymore to buy the comics and they're out of business. That's basically a void in the general community that will be filled very quickly with big box stores. And the thing is that I personally think it's going to take the complete, utter annihilation of the publishing industry as we know it to get through to these people. Because heaven friggin' forbids, if the crowd, sorry, I'm a bit of a brain bubble, I apologize. If the crowdfunding aspect becomes the norm moving forward, people don't understand the devastation that's going to leave for everything. And the thing is that the people who are on the wrong side or on the right side of that crowdfunding stuff and they don't get their stuff published, you're only as good as your last comic book or your last production you're part of that was financially successful. And the thing is that right now, and right now, we're basically getting out of a pandemic. Some countries are figuring how to get out of the pandemic. And these companies, they are very bigoted. They only see one color, and that's green. If the money's not coming in, you're cut. You're done. It's over. You're buried in a fucking ditch. Good luck getting out. And the thing is that these people that are in the gatekeeping king and queen positions, they have to keep that in mind. Because if they don't understand what's coming down the pipes. And let's say they do. maybe they're seeing things from a different perspective. Maybe they're seeing everything from rose-tinted glasses. But from what I'm seeing, especially from a long-term forecast, it's all going to be different.
Yeah,
That's just me.
everybody's crowdfunding a comic. I don't see anybody crowdfunding a publishing house.
Well, and I don't see anyone
that.
crowdfunding their local comic book shop either. And
Yeah,
it's like, look, like, just a quick one-on-one in economics here. The reason why the current publishing industry works is that you have a publishing company that hires artists. Within those artists, they actually rent a business space. Within the business space, they actually have a printer. Through that printer, they actually basically get people to print their comics. After the comic books are printed, they actually go through shipping, through distributing. Someone drives the trucks from A to B. It goes from an actual distributing house. From there, there's people that work on the warehouse, distribute those actual comic books to different comic book shops. Those comic book shops hire employees. They also rent actual physical space from that. And the thing is that, again, little Jimmy or little Sally goes to their favorite comic book shop on Saturday, because I'm a big promoter of people going to comic book shops on Saturdays, and buy the favorite comic. If all that's cut out, it's done. It's over. Yes, the artist makes a lot of money if they're lucky, but without all those little tiny jobs in between, you got nothing. You got a really bad economic downturn. Plus, on top of that, as I mentioned before, friggin' AT&T and Disney owns the top two. Both of those companies are in severe financial restraint. Disney more than AT&T. But when it really comes down to it, if they don't make their money, they're going to get cut. And all of our favorite comic books characters, they're gone. What's Crumb? Hey, what's Crumb have to say?
it's going to take investors standing up and demanding companies stop catering to non-customers. Yes, it will.
Yes,
It
exactly.
will.
And it's not just that these people that are screaming, they're not even 1%. You know,
No, they're not. No,
a very small minority, and by no means is their voice not important to be heard.
Lee, stop. I want to add something to that. They're just not in a small minority. They're in a smaller minority on this thing called Twitter that the average consumer have no idea what the fuck that means. But
Right.
however, they have direct access to every major artist and publisher because they're hanging on every tweet and every retweet and every like. And if you talk to people in your community what that means, I'm pretty sure same thing with mine. They have no idea what the fuck that means. But however,
It's
they
the 12
know what
crazy people on Twitter.
and the thing is that they know what Captain America is, they know what Spider-Man is, they know who Iron Man is, but
Right, you get 1,000 messages, and that's 1,000 people. Okay, and let's just say that 1,000 is actually fans. Okay, there's almost 340 million in the United States, and you're talking about 1,000 people. Wow.
we're gonna couple
Holy
of
crap.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I mean, are you going to
math is
cater to
always-
everybody?
I think the math is always that if you hear from one person, there are three other who think the same thing who didn't contact you. I think that's how they kind of extrapolate
Right. Right.
these kind of contacts. But again, it's the people who don't matter to the business or shouldn't matter to the business that are driving the business. When all this complaint went on against Dynamite, bringing it back to the top of the show again, you had Mark Russell. His contract was up. He said, "I'm leaving Dynamite." Well, you were already on your way out of Dynamite. You had Carla Pacheco, who said, "I'm leaving Dynamite after my run on Betty Page." Well, your contract was up. You were already leaving Dynamite. Neither of you made an impact. I maintain my hypothesis, belief, that it was Jay Lee's attack that drove Dynamite to crumble this weekend, because Jay Lee makes a lot of money for Dynamite selling pretty covers on their books.
Yeah. No,
And they
I
said,
can
we
see
can't get Dynamite to crumble, we'll get Jay Lee to crumble, so he doesn't want to associate. And then Dynamite will have to withdraw their association so that they can keep Jay Lee.
yeah. The fun thing is about the chess game that happens behind closed doors, we really don't know if the last thing we want to do is add anything negative towards that, just in case if we're right.
Yes.
And this has been going on for a while. It'd be kind of funny if Disney sells Marvel to AT&T. That would be
Oh,
interesting.
that would be awesome.
That would be very, very interesting. Amalgam Publishing may exist one day.
I would buy that so much. My
Dark
son
Claw.
played the Legends of the
Yes!
Dark Claw, and I was like, how did Dark Claw come around, Daddy? Well, there used to be two guys called Batman and Wolverine.
What's a Batman, Dad? That's okay. Come with me.
It's a long story.
Exactly. It's been going on for almost 80 years.
Yeah. Don't worry, we'll kill it yet.
Oh, Jesus.
All
But I don't know.
gentlemen,
Yep.
I think we've beat this dead horse, and it's not moving now.
Are you sure it's not twitching? I see some twitching.
I've been binging Hannibal all day while working from home, and the last episode I saw was the one where they exhumed a body from inside the carcass of a horse. So now I've got this image in my head that we're beating the dead horse. It's twitching, but that's because there's another corpse inside the horse. There's a corpse in the horse, of course.
Oh, wow. That was bad.
Oh,
That was
that
very
was
bad.
absolutely delightfully horrible. All right, RJ, wrap this up. Let us
That's a
loose
good-
full our contract
That's
for the
the
evening.
perfect sign that this needs to be brought to a graceful end. So, Lee, Mr. Hop, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All the
Appreciate
people
it.
in the chat, we appreciate you coming by. If you hit that subscribe button so you always know when we're going to do this kind of craziness again. We'd love to have you here, and we'd love to have your comments. Hit that like button, share it out. We're at 1,200 visual hours, 1,200 viewing hours. We need 4,000 of them so that you can give us that super chat money. I know you were looking for the button, and I'm sorry that we don't have it, but we're working on it. I would do this without super chats. I'm having too much fun. Just go to the website. You don't have to pay anything for that, and the ads will just take care of that. Traffic the website. See the articles we write up, the reviews, the interviews, and sometimes we embed this stuff and extrapolate an article out of that. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Good night to you all.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it, guys.